Okay, sliding into 1550 now. What do we got? First of all, good old Charles I died. He didn't get to reign very long. This is his death turn. He had a couple turns of his reign taken away from him by the length of the predecessor's term. Ended up getting an infant on the throne. No big shock there. With slightly less values. And I gotta make sure that Philip the First isn't actually, no, Philip the Second isn't actually pre-programmed in, because I may have screwed up there. Okay, but anyway, he's gone. Charles is definitely gone, and his replacement is not going to be as good. Beyond that, well, some economic effects. England has epidemics, France an agricultural crisis. Spain got colonial dynamism. They actually got it twice, allowing them to have a double effect, which means basically they're going to get 2 free colony placement roles, as well as a shift on any colony placements they can make. They could take a trading post as those colony roles, but they don't really want one anywhere except maybe Florida. There's furs in Florida that aren't on the map that were added in the errata. And then the other thing is the final Reformation event, which makes Scotland and the Palatinate both into Protestant countries. Now, Scotland naturally was in the original game. Palatinate wouldn't be until the 30 Years' War. This adds a little bit of additional, I don't know, realism or whatever, and variability to the process that's in the original game. So I'm all for that. I don't think it hurts much. The only problem is the Palatinate is listed as a Catholic power, and I have to remember its numbers switch. It's considered to have the same ratings as Hess does in terms of how it's going to advance on people's tracks. Not that anybody's too interested in the Protestants right now. So one thing, one of England's chosen events was lots of minors allied from their religion, more than any other player has of their religion. Well, if they were Protestant, that would really work. It doesn't work so well now that they're Catholic. They're kind of fighting for them. You can see they grabbed Genoa and, of course, Scotland. If they can get some of those Venetian ones off there. But some of these are in the war, Parma and Tuscany. The others, not so much so. So that's of some interest to them. Alright, I guess it's into the diplomacy. As to diplomacy, some of the stuff on minors not too important. England got Lorraine into their entry in war box, continuing that sort of encirclement of France plan. They think France is going to try for Calais at some point, so they want to kind of build up on that as well as getting Catholic countries. They may go for Poland, which is a powerful Catholic country, in their favor, especially with a king on it. And they think they might be able to get a lot of points maybe off Turkey by fighting with the Poles in case another war erupts or something. Speaking of Turkey, they spent a stability point in order to declare war on the Habsburgs. It would cost far more to declare war on the Mamluks, and they don't feel like they can handle the Mamluks at the same time as this, but the Habsburgs are tied down in a war against Bavaria. Seems like the perfect time to march in and see if they can get some stuff. No alliance with France here. They're just operating on their own, seeing what they can grab, maybe on the cheap, get some of that Hungarian territory that they weren't able to get from Hungary. All right, on to the economics. Darn. Turns out I forgot about the fact that with the Risto events, you got to worry about the election of the emperor every time an emperor dies. In this particular case, the emperor being the Spanish Emperor Charles V dying, well, Charles II, or Charles I of Spain, Charles V of the Empire, put things into a particular, hey, here an emperor in particular has died. This can't be done by random event. Well, nobody's really going to oppose the Habsburg winning the empire. Nobody's got that kind of cash on hand. Not even I mean, Spain can't. Venice certainly is probably the richest of the powers. England could have done it. Anyway, none of them really wanted to play in this world. It was France who had the biggest interest in it, and Spain, of course. Neither one can handle it, so I'm just going to say the Habsburgs won the empire here. I think that means that emperors will not die unless the Habsburgs become a new player in the game, or if an event comes into play that says, hey, run that again. And this is the same as the original game, except for, well, if the Habsburgs become a player, the events become challenged again. Alright. Onward. Alright, well, we're ready to push on into the actual rounds. The French ended up drawing 2 mercenaries. The first one they drew was, unfortunately, Conquistador. They could have actually used an Explorer. No one else was interested in bidding, so they picked up the second one for $10 as well. The only real difference from last turn's situation is that now we've got the Turks at war with the Habsburgs, and the Habsburgs have deployed some troops ready to try to face the Turks. Now, the Turks have a lot of troops out of kind of position to handle this war. They should have positioned themselves better, but they weren't expecting the last turn to end where it did. Venice and France are kind of half talking about not prosecuting this war. France has no real great desire to push into Venice, and Venice doesn't really want to do Spain's work for them here. If we look at the victory points, and they're pretty close, France and Spain has a powerful, powerful position developing in the New World, which makes Venice a little less desirous. They built their army back up. They have 2 full army units still again, but they're well behind in terms of technology. Oh, speaking of which, we've got some markers to move. First of all, this drops down. The French weren't able to reach it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They've got the land tech in place. Nobody's below that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like Spain and England do push up a little bit. And what about the Turks? I think they're okay. Yeah. Alright, well, that's about where we are. The Portuguese, not really worrying about expanding too much. They're going to try to grow their colony a little bit more, and they're going to try to deal with this revolt as best as they can. They may take the penalty again this turn because they don't have a lot of cash on hand. Alright. Well, in a big war turn, big exciting things often happen on that first round, but it didn't really seem to this time. French moved forward, had continuing sieges going on where they were. Turks had to position themselves at the border. They opened something up here. I mean, yes, there's a lot of movement for this game, but just really one field battle, I think, down here. And it was kind of a bland one. Oh, I forgot to decide if the French are trying to explore with their stuff. Two of these guys, and certainly the free guy, it seems almost, I don't know, a waste not to use them. Alright. Okay, we slide into the third round, and what do we got? Well, the French succeeded in taking Luxembourg. Spaniards attacked again at Roussillon, driven back. No loss, no victory change, nothing like that, but the Spanish army is getting destroyed there to the point where they really can't do anything anymore. They've got some reserves back here that they can bring up. Maybe that'll help. Oh, I forgot to roll for the Portuguese. 4, 5, 6 plus 5. Yeah, they got it. Okay. French actually attacked Venice this time. That didn't go terribly well. Venice didn't respond. Basically what France is doing is not just trying to get some bonus on Venice itself, but maybe a bonus by being able to attack these Italian states. But if they march down on them, they're afraid Venice will take Milan from them. Venice is like, well, dude, just chill. You've got what you want. I just want out of this war. Leave my miners alone. France is considering it now. The Habsburgs took Nuremberg from Bavaria, and they defeated the Bavarian army when it attacked. It swung around to avoid the water barrier. And, well, question here is now, does the Habsburg player want to move, well, did the Spaniards want to move the Habsburgs out of Bavaria, where there's no real threat, and down towards either Turkey or to face the French? Or do they just want to get a total victory on Bavaria? Chances are they're going to be able to grab Nuremberg anyway from Bavaria, which is kind of a bonus for the Habsburgs, I guess. I don't know. Turks, more siege. The island's still under siege. Nothing really changing there. We've got over here on the rest of the map, Coronado is continuing the exploration of the Amazon, and the Portuguese sailed over to here, lost their navigator, and half their fleet. They're really at the point where there's not a lot for them to gain anymore down there. They're probably just going to sail back into port. Alright, well, onward. Alright, end of 3 rounds. The Spanish conquistador down here succeeded in discovering some more, but he died in the process, and now they have to kind of try to make their way back. It shouldn't be too hard. There's a colony right next to them, so they can actually do that with because of the river without even making an attrition check, I believe. Portuguese, I don't know if I moved them back this turn or last round. I think it was this round. Spanish managed to defeat the French at Roussillon, set up a siege. They haven't gotten anywhere. The French have moved forward and are sieging Hainaut. Yeah. That means things have stayed static here. Turks still haven't succeeded here. They've pushed forward with another siege there, though they've gotten knocked out of Ruthenia. This was an iffy force anyway, the Moldavians and Wallachians led by some pashas. Not very effective. Then again, the Habsburg force that hit it was conscript, so it wasn't terribly effective either. But they managed to force the siege to be over. The Habsburgs made the choice to siege the rest of Bavaria. The reason for this is it's going to affect their peace conditions with France. And they're more worried about that. They don't want to give things away to Turkey, but that doesn't directly hurt Spain except a little bit in victory points. They really, really do not want to lose Milan. However, without the Habsburgs or the Venetians making a move on Milan, it's kind of not going to be protected there. And here's another factor. Even if Venice moves in and attacks it, they're no longer the Spanish allies, so they won't convert Milan. The best they can do is maybe take it as a peace condition from the French, which really they don't want to do in particular. They'd love it, but they don't have any strong goal towards that, and they really don't want this war with France. It's not helping them. Of course, if they got Milan out of it, if things got to that level, if the French attacks got to the level where they could grab Milan, yeah, they'd take it. And in fact, this is why the French aren't marching into Habsburg territory. But the Habsburgs probably shouldn't be diddling around with Bavaria right now. No one else is doing much. Well, we got some French down here landing in Arcadia. They're going to have to come home. They really can't push that exploration forward much. Well, see, the problem is they don't have a way to get the message home if they keep exploring. They don't have a colony or anything as a base. So it's just not a helpful situation for them. And their fleet's kind of in weak condition right now. All right, well, we do have another round at least, so we'll keep going. Well, after 4 rounds, that's actually the end of the turn. Let's see what happened. The Spanish army was destroyed here at Roussillon. We've got some remnants of it. They pulled the artillery out, basically, because that's expensive to rebuild. At least half the artillery. The other half got destroyed along with everything else. So they got defeated there and lost their siege. French continuing their siege there. They got it up to a plus level, so they get to keep it. Ooh, did I roll this? Yes. The Bavarian siege is continuing, not completed yet. Over here, the Habsburgs managed to end another Turkish siege, getting a little bit of edge on them. The Turks aren't really winning anything this turn, so they don't have much they can ask, for a surrender. But what they did get was they finished off Rhodes. Spain is going to have the option to give the Knights Malta, which kind of puts them in a permanent position of advantage with them. They probably want to do that. It's always the question, do you really want to give up a $2 area? Yeah, okay. And it's a hard decision in some ways, but it's not a terribly valuable location. And by giving it away, they do maintain kind of a counterbalance against the Turks. Especially this early in the game, you kind of don't want to see the Knights completely disappear. Yeah, I guess I got some points to assign, etc., and see whether there's any peace, and then I'll come back after that. Obviously, there's going to be a peace with the Knights. Well, briefly, we saw the risk of having a small force of troops somewhere. Here at Guyana, where there's only 10 natives, and any reasonable army could probably wipe them out. Well, without a leader, so they ended up drawing one of these randoms here. And the troops are still there, by the way. The Spanish troops were slightly injured, but they weren't able to do any damage to the natives. And so the natives got to roll on the table. There weren't enough troops there to give any kind of real significant advantage against the natives. And all that was present was one colonial level and... This is supposed to go here, but I don't know where the rest of them are. One colonial level and one mission. Well, both were destroyed because it's very easy to get several levels of damage on something. So there goes a gold mine that the Spaniards had. They can reestablish it, but it's kind of a pain in the ass, and that's not only a colonization action, but at least $30 down the drain that they have to reestablish, and they don't have someone in place to handle it. If they had had a conquistador there, it would have been much easier, and that's kind of why you don't want to have troops wandering around through your territory in the New World or in Asia. The Portuguese had a big enough army that chances were they would wipe out any of the medieval tech units that they were going to run into. Okay. And as we barrel into turn 14, and this is the last turn of this second period. So England, who's, exceeded their limits, they just have to roll once more to get through them, and then they'll be safe. And, they won't have to do it again. Their ratings are fairly high from now on in the game. They also start to get the ability to colonize and stuff. So they've got other outlets for their money. That's been kind of the problem for them. Venice in the same position. But okay, so what did we get out of pieces? Well, first of all, the Knights are gone. Spain's going to give them that. I haven't recorded the points for that yet. That's got to change hands. But I don't want to let them out of the game yet. The Habsburgs succeeded in getting Bavaria to give up Ansbach, and that means Bavaria is half the size, not economically, but it gives it a penalty, I think, on before it had a +1 on its reinforcements. Now it's at 0 essentially, but it's got a +1 for period as well. But yeah, it's heavily hit. France and Spain couldn't come to an agreement. France wouldn't accept a white peace. They want another province. They want Luxembourg. And they said, well, the way things calculate, we're at a peace of level 3, so I'll get Luxembourg and some money, and I'm happy with that. And Spain's like, no, dude, I might be able to take Milan from you. I'd do a white peace. So they couldn't agree. So they went down 2, but they were both successfully up to 3 before that. Or got it off of prosperity. I'm not absolutely certain. I can look it up real quick. Yeah, neither one's got prosperity going. In fact, they're decreasing. Turks are still at war with the Habsburgs, which means that the Habsburgs may not be quite the threat against Milan that Spain would like them to be. But Spain's getting some good leaders here. They're getting Farnese, and they also get the Vaca, who might be able to handle Peru, except Spain needs to build its armies and face France with them. So it's kind of tough. They probably have enough money to launch armies in both directions, but they didn't have enough armies to handle France last turn, mainly because they were being parsimonious. But they could have built at double cost or something, or down here and moved up. So what else do we have? Well, the French get Montmorency, which should be an interesting situation. He's not quite as good as Farnese, but he is a better leader than the average, non-named leaders. Other than that, I guess we're about ready to jump into the next period. So, inflation's been staying low. This is one of the kind of iffy things in the game. The counter says greater than 7. The rules say 7 or higher. I've been playing it with the counter this time. That's kind of left it a little lower. I've also not gotten any events that pushed it forward. So actually, nobody's paying a terribly large amount of inflation yet. The Spanish got kind of lucky to push it up above the 0 box, because in the 0 box only they would be paying inflation the way I'm playing it. And something else I forgot. The Indians have their merchant fleet down here. I think there's 3 levels in that, just to create a little bit of competition if somebody decides to go into that area. They get that after Bengal fell, which happened a while ago. Alright, well, I guess we're ready to start the next turn. I gotta check this. No, that's not a double-sided. But I gotta put La Valette and Malta in place. But otherwise, we're loading this up.